Welcome back to Detroit's Morning Answer. I am a big advocate of MAHA. I think it was one of the greatest things. I think it's one of the things that pushed President Trump over, and I think it's one of the reasons why he won, especially a lot of the swing states. And he won every swing state. And I think one of the reasons why, not only Elon Musk, but I think RFK Jr. Deciding to support President Trump in this last election is one of the reasons why he won. And when you think about it, there's a moment in every health journey when you realize the system has been more focused on managing symptoms rather than restoring wellness. That's why a lot of these wellness groups that are popping up are so successful, because people feel like they're collecting these diagnoses and with no true plan for real healing. Dr. Vohn Watts stepped into that gap with a mission that blends military intelligence precision and clinical medicine insight. He built his approach by studying patterns, decoding signals, and uncovering root causes. His book, Foundational Wellness, lays out a simple but powerful truth. Your body is speaking long before your symptoms scream for attention. Dr. Watts believes doctor dependency is a sign of a broken system, not a broken person, because there's a lot of money in this. His framework centers on gut health, energy, resilience, and a radical idea that healing does not need to be complicated. He works to help people break cycles of inflammation, fatigue, hormonal imbalance, and the mystery symptoms many Americans live with. Today, we dig deep into one of the greatest threats to American health and freedom, ultra-processed foods and how they are quietly rewiring our bodies, our cravings, our children, and our future. Dr. Watts, welcome to Detroit's Morning Answer.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much. But, Dr. Watts, I just got back from Israel, and I'm going to tell you, normally when I eat like spicy foods or, processed foods, I get heartburn. I was in Israel, and not one day did I get heartburn. What is it about what other countries are doing that Americans are not, that's causing a lot of this gut health? I love that you focus on the gut, because I've learned that the gut is powerful. And I'll tell you this, my daughter, she has alopecia, and we've been told that it's a gut issue. The reason why my daughter is completely bald right now. She's 8 years old, and it's really affecting her psyche. What is it that Americans are not doing that other countries are doing that could save a lot of our American citizens?
Yeah, you hear a lot of people say this when they come back from Europe as well. They could never eat bread before, and over there they can eat bread and not bloat. The difference is they're eating real food, and we have so much processed food here in the United States. And the two things that, like I teach in my book, are kind of the main causes of most all disease are nutritional deficiencies and toxins. And unfortunately, in the foods that we eat, especially ultra-processed foods, they strip your body of nutrients, and they are filled with chemicals that are extremely harmful for your body.
Yeah. Define what ultra-processed, so I guess there's processed foods and then there are ultra-processed foods. Can you define the distinction? Can you give us the distinction between it, and why are they so bad? You said chemicals?
Yeah, so when most people think of process, you think of like milk goes through a process, right? You're not drinking it straight from the cow, and that's a whole nother conversation on its own. But when you're talking about ultra-processed foods, you're talking about these foods that are coming out of like packages and boxes that are filled with really bad fats, dyes, other chemicals and ingredients that you can.
The way you read the human body, and then how you identify patterns doctors often miss.
Yeah, it's. I look at health the same way. I was a cryptographer, so a code breaker, and so you look at patterns, you look at things, and you start to see similarities between patients. Whether it's a Hashimoto patient, a alopecia patient, you start to see similarities and other symptomatology that these patients tend to share, which then point you to kind of the similar thing. It all comes back down to give the body what it's needs. You got to have the essential vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. And avoid toxicity, things like pesticides and dyes and chemicals and really bad fats. Those things, what they do is they actually destroy your microbiome. And for people that don't understand how important the gut is the second brain. It controls so many different processes of the body, like your immune system. Most of your, like 98% of your serotonin is created in the gut. There's a lot of things that the gut controls. And so if you don't have a healthy microbiome and it's been disrupted by these foods, it leads to all sorts of different things like autoimmunity, as well as even worse things, and some things that are very subtle.
Yeah. Is the danger more about what's in these foods or what is missing from them? What's the danger?
What's in the foods. And don't be wrong, what's missing as well, because if you're eating ultra processed food, if that's what you're just eating most every day, well, you're also eating food that is nutrient depleted. So you also, that is a big part, but really the big danger, you could technically eat ultra processed foods and supplement for your vitamins and minerals if you wanted to. It'd be a really horrible plan. Yeah. But the bigger danger is the chemicals that are in there. And as we saw here earlier this year with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., one of the very, very important things that policies he put in place, which I believe goes into effect this next year, is a lot of the dyes that were banned that cause all sorts of neurological issues, like red dye, yellow dyes, all those things that are created and put into our foods, like Fruit Loops, but the Fruit Loops made in the same factory that get shipped to Europe do not have those dyes. So we're kind of starting on that trek to get into these foods that don't have these horrible chemicals that cause problems.
For the parents that are listening to this, and they're watching their kids struggle with these mood swings, the low energy, and a lot of early weight gain, is this attributed to the eating of ultra processed foods, and is it reshaping childhood development?
100%. It's definitely, you're seeing kids now that is as young as 10, 12, 14 years old with type 2 diabetes, which is typically found in adults after a long period of bad diet and lifestyle. You're seeing that younger now with kids. But with that as well, as these kids are eating these bad foods, what they're linking a lot of stuff to now, especially when it comes to neurodevelopment and comes to like ADD, ADHD, these things are easily, in many cases, controlled just by changing the diet of the child.
Yeah.
I had a patient once who, like, the mom knew that if she had mac and cheese, because the yellow number 5 that's in there, mm-hmm. her daughter would go from being normal to being ADHD bouncing off the walls.
Wow.
And so these chemicals and the damage it does to the microbiome, which does help control brain function, it's all connected to these foods.
Dr. Watts, though, what you teach a simple foundational system to end this doctor dependency, right? Where does someone begin when their entire diet is built on these convenience foods?
I tell people this: try to make it super simple. I'm really big on trying to teach principles that are easily applied, that aren't like these extremely difficult things to do. Number one is eat real food. If it grows on the ground, in the ground, swims or flies, you're good to go. If it comes out of a package, bottle, or can, try to avoid it. And I try to adhere by like the 80-20 rule. If you can eat that way 80% of the time, then 20% of the time you stop to get a Starbucks, you stop to get, food that isn't the best. Well, your body's going to be able to handle that much better than the other way around, which most Americans are 80% ultra processed and maybe 20% good.
Yeah. Dr. Watts, we often talk about there's a big thing right now about healthcare, about the subsidies doubling and all of that. But we rarely talk about the food environment that creates disease. How much of America's health crisis traces back to these ultra processed foods?
I would say a good majority of them. As we're seeing the science come out, we've been taught that fat is bad for you, and sugar doesn't have a bad effect like fat. Now, as we're seeing these studies that were flawed studies, we see sugar. It's not just the chemicals in there, but it's all the sugar content, and sugar is a big cause for all these metabolic issues as well as cardiovascular disease. And so really the foods, it's a huge part. For me, I try to educate people when it comes to disease. The majority of things can be fixed with two things: addressing any deficiencies you have, any type of vitamin or mineral deficiency, which you can get checked through blood work, and do a detox annually. You know, we're exposed to these chemicals, these pesticides. They don't just leave on their own. You need to take stuff to help detox that stuff out of your body. And so eliminate toxins and eliminate deficiencies, and you'd be amazed at how many people just from that heal and live a healthy life.
If you're just joining the show, we're talking to Dr. Vohn Watts. He's the author of the book Foundational Wellness, the simple system that ends doctors' dependency forever. My wife, what about fasting? My wife just did a 3-day water fast, and she said she lost like 6 to 8 pounds, I think it was. How important is fasting from everything except water? Is that something that's healthy?
Fasting is very healthy. Matter of fact, if you can fast, you know, even if it's a 24-hour fast once or twice a month, that's really good for your body. It helps your body kind of to naturally detox. It helps to kind of reset. But there's a lot of research you're seeing now with other major diseases that people are doing a little bit longer fasts, like these 72-hour fasts, where they're seeing major changes in their metabolic physiology.
What's some of the, because right now the oil of oregano, and I forget this, it's this green drink. I forget the name of it. That my daughter actually brings it in. My daughter, it starts with a C. I forget the name of it, but it's like a green drink. Now she has it in pill form. What are some of those? You talked about vitamins and is probiotic one thing that needs to be ingested more? What are some of the things that can help somebody who's listening to this and saying, "Hey, man, I got type 2 diabetes. I got my gut I got a bloated belly." What are some of the things that they could use to help to give them a healthy gut?
Yeah. So probiotics, finding a really good pre-probiotic. I always suggest if you're getting a probiotic, get one that has a prebiotic in it, which is basically the food for the probiotic. So it helps the colony to grow faster. That's very good because your microbiome, like I said, it controls so many things, but blood sugar is a big one of them. Also, liver and gallbladder health is very important because especially when you're dealing with blood sugar issues, your liver plays a key role in helping to regulate blood sugar as well. So there's making sure you're getting on a really good pre-probiotic, find a good vitamin mineral supplement, because as we know, our soils are depleted. We're not getting the minerals and vitamins in even the real food like we used to. Yeah. And then, like I said, find something that can help provide some good liver support, or even, like I said, even like a really good binder is what they call it. Is what it does, it goes and binds pesticides and heavy metals and molds and helps to pull that and flush that out of the system.
What about drinking stuff like apple cider vinegar? Is that a good thing, or does your book go into like helping people develop meal plans? Does it help them understand the vitamins that they should be out there getting? Is that your book lays out a plan for people?
It goes through and lays out different ideas. It doesn't have like a full plan for what exactly people should do because everybody's dealing with something a little bit different. Yeah. But it does give some of those basics. Like I said, deficiency is the big one. And the biggest deficiencies we see, and you touched on it, was, like I said, taking a good probiotic because the microbiome in the gut is very affected, especially with most Americans, because of the foods that we're exposed to. But then it comes down to, I'm a big test, don't guess. So if you're feeling like you have some stuff going on, find a functional medicine doctor in your area and have them run a vitamin mineral panel. Start there to simply see, are you actually deficient of something? And so instead of just going and randomly buying stuff that you may or may not need, you can be a little more deliberate in your approach at filling these deficiencies.
Yeah. If you could change, what changes would you make if you could redesign the American food system tomorrow? And do you think that what Maha is doing, Dr. Macri, RFK Jr., do you think they're on the right road or the right path?
Yeah, I think they're 100% on the right path. All this stuff he's talking about, like I said, like just the simple fact of pulling these harmful dyes out of our foods is big. But, there's more and more research coming out with the harm that these pesticides are causing internally. They're destroying the microbiome as well as and linked to different cancers. So, yeah, they're definitely on the right track. My biggest concern, to be honest, is I hope they can get enough done in the next 3 years, because if we really want politics come and go. They always change. I try to get too much in politics. But the biggest impact that this administration could have is if they could truly change some of these regulations within the FDA that allow for these foods to be legal here that are completely banned in Europe. Most of our food in the U.S. is banned in Europe and Russia.
Dr. Vohn Watts, I want to give you an opportunity to explain to the people why your book is important, the foundational wellness. Why it's important that this is part of their library.
Yeah, it really breaks everything down to be something really simple. I've dealt with a lot of patients with a lot of weird stuff. When they come to see me, I'm not usually the first choice. I'm usually like the last hope, and before they give up. And what I discovered was, basically this. I discovered this in practice when I changed how I started treating patients, and I started addressing deficiencies up front, and then go right into helping to remove some of these harmful toxins that you can also test for, by the way. You can do blood panels and different panels to test for if you have these toxins. And just by addressing those two things, without even treating the actual condition yet, I always would do that first, because I use that as the farmer analogy. A farmer doesn't just go into the field and start throwing seeds. They prepare the field first. Yeah. So before I start treating, I prepare the field. I make sure that the field has all the vitamins and minerals it needs to do all the different processes the body requires and remove these toxins. What I found is that about 64% of my patients never went into a treatment phase. Just by addressing those two things, their organs started functioning. And that's the whole premise behind the whole concept of foundational wellness, is that basically the root cause of, other than, unique genetic issues, but regular healthy people that then become sick. My belief in what I've seen in practice, that pretty much most all disease is caused by one of two things, and that's nutritional deficiencies or toxic burdens. And having those cause organ dysfunction. And so when your organs start to dysfunction, that's when inflammation sets in, and then chronic inflammation leads to disease. So those two things will prevent a lot of issues and a lot of disease.
So, Dr. Vohn Watts, where can people get the book? Do you have a website? Can people follow you on social media if they have any other questions?
Yeah, foundationalwellness.com, or I'm on Instagram, Doc Vohn, Vohn, like John with a V. Easily found there. And then I have another company that I founded, and I'm the chief science officer and formulator for a supplement company that I own as well.
Yeah. I see there's something called the 10 Fatal Health Mistakes, too. Is that another book that you got coming up?
So if you go to foundationalwellness.com, you'll get that free gift of the 10 health mistakes right there. And then it gives you access to buy the book if you want to buy the book. But you get that free. Right. It's like a free
I love it. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I think because I'm on my own personal health journey. When I was a cop, I destroyed my hip, and I gained over. I was almost 300 pounds. I'm down to like 246 now. I want to get back to my police weight of like 215, 220. I'm gonna pick up this book to see how it can help push me out there. What about metals? Real quick, metals in the body. How important is it? I hear a lot of people, a lot of these wellness doctors talk about you have metals in your body, you have too much metal in your body. What is that conversation about?
Yeah, we've been exposed to a lot of heavy metals. Yeah, and a lot of them are talking about aluminum is a big one that we find a lot in people, and it is what it is. But the number one way we get aluminum is through vaccination. Oh. Most every vaccination contains aluminum. And unfortunately, the body only naturally chelates out or pushes out about 20%. So you accumulate this metal, and unfortunately, it can even cross the blood-brain barrier, get into the brain. They've done studies in Europe where they showed that autistic kids have 10 times the accumulation of aluminum in the brain than non-autistic kids from CT scans that they did. So aluminum can cause, aside from major neurological issues, it can cause a lot of other harmful issues within the body and cause organs to not function properly.
Is there a study out about that link between the vaccines and autism? Because, I mean, there's just a huge spike after all of these vaccines came. Is there a link I could find about a study on that? Because I have a friend whose kid is autistic, and he's hell bent on believing that it was the vaccine.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, I would believe that as well. They just actually, I just saw something released just like a week ago, about how the drug companies have released a new drug that is reversing autism, which goes against the whole narrative that it's genetic. When you go and look to see how much aluminum, micrograms of aluminum are contained inside of the vaccines just in the first 6 months, and even a single day when they give your child 5 vaccines in one day.
Wow.
That amount of aluminum that is contained in those vaccines, if you go from the CDC over to the EPA, those levels exceed the levels for heavy metal poisoning.
Wow.
So the amount of accumulation is wild.
Wow. Dr. Vohn Watts, author of the book Foundational Wellness. Thanks so much for joining us on Detroit's Morning Answer. We'll make sure Paul gets the interview over to you.
Thank you. You have a great day.
All right. Thank you. That's Dr. Vohn Watts. I'm going to look into this, Paul, because there's some gut healing that I need. Detroit's Morning Answer. We'll be right back.